Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be building a small to-do list app using JavaScript. So as you can see here, we can add some to-dos, okay, and then we can add more to-dos, go to shops, okay, and then we also have a custom scroll bar here as well, more to-dos. Okay, so we can also delete the to-dos when I click the delete. Okay, we can also search the to-dos. I'm gonna say go to. So now we've only have one to do corresponding to go. Okay, I can add more to search, add more to-dos. I'm gonna say clean the house. Okay, so here when I search clean, it's going to return clean the house. Or when I say add, it's going to return any to do that has a word add or it has a letter A. Okay, so anything that corresponds with our search query is going to return that, and then it's going to filter out any data that doesn't match our query. Okay, so and also we can also double click to complete a to do. Double click, and then it's going to cross the to do that we have completed. It's going to change the color to green as well. Okay, we can still delete these to-dos, and when we double click again, it's going to undo the check. Double click is going to undo. When we click, it's going to check and undo as well. Okay, yeah, so that's the main idea for the app. We can search, we can add items, we can delete them. Okay, yeah, I'll see you in the video. Okay, so now let's jump into VS Code. I'm going to be using this design as some sort of a guide to see what we're going to create. Okay, so now let's jump into VS Code. I'm going to create a new file here. I'm going to say index.html. So make sure you select the directory which you want to save your files. In this case, I'm using a folder called to do. Okay, so I'm also going to create a new folder. I'm going to name this styles. It's going to contain all our styles. And then I'm going to create a new file in here. It's going to be style.scss with an SCSS extension, because we're going to be using Sass instead of normal CSS. So go to the extensions. We're going to look for Sass. We're going to download a compiler, live Sass compiler. So that's the extension that we need in this video. And also we need the Sass extension here as well. Okay, so once you got those extensions, I'm pretty sure other text editors have those extensions as well. Okay, so no matter what text editor you're using, you're going to have different extensions and different names, but I'm pretty sure it's going to do the same thing. Okay, so now in here, let's generate some HTML boilerplate. To generate that, you need to hold Shift and 1 and then press Tab. Okay, and then here I'm going to name these to-dos. Let's go to the browser and then go to Google Fonts. Okay, and then we're going to look for, I think the one that I've used is called Montserrat. Can't even spell the name. Oh yeah, there it is. Okay, so we're going to take the regular one, 500, and then maybe 600. Copy this whole thing, and then you paste it after the title, and then we're going to copy the font family name also, and then in here is style.scss. So we're going to do basic page resetting. We're going to reset the margin to 0, and then padding we're going to set that to 0 also, and then box sizing we're going to set that to border box, and then here we're going to do the font family, and also we're going to need some icons. Font awesome. So search font awesome CDN. Let's go, and then copy the first one, copy link tag, copy that, and then we're going to paste it below the fonts. Okay, paste it down here. Okay, so now we have font awesome. That's great. So now let's open our website before we do that, I'm just going to do some body. I'm going to say background color, background, whoops, I'm using Copilot, I have to turn it off. Background color, I'm going to set that to red. So we need to click this white Sass to compile our Sass. Click that, and then it's going to generate a style.css file. So we don't need to touch this style.css file. Everything, we need to do everything in the Sass, and then it's going to compile everything into this CSS file. So we just need to link this CSS file to our HTML. So here, down here, we're just going to do link, and then we're going to say styles, and then we're going to link style.css. Okay, so now let's open with Live Server. Okay, there it is. So our website is working. We have our background color of red. Okay, so if you want the Live Server, go to the extensions and look for Live Server plugin. Okay, so search for Live Server. It should be this one, the first one. Okay, so now let's continue. Okay, so everything is working fine. So let's start by doing some HTML first before we move on. Okay, so let's start by creating a div. I'm just going to say main content or main container. So in here we're going to have a form, and then this is going to be to do form, actually to do form. Okay, form, make sure it's form like this. So this form is like where we're going to do our inputs. So this is the form we're creating here. So we're going to put some text here, and then we're going to click add. Okay, so now in here we're going to do input, input with a class of f input. Okay, and then the placeholder, we're just going to say task name dot with 3 dots, and then this input is going to be required. Okay, all right, so we also want a button in here, so we're going to say button dot sub btn, that's for submission, submit button. And then here I'm just going to say add to do like that. You can use an icon here, or you can just use this plus. Okay, so that's it for now. This actually, let's do a header. Let's put that in a header. Okay, so after that we also want a form, another form with search form. We're going to have a search input, search from, my spelling is kind of bad. Okay, so now in here we just have one input here. We just say input dot search input. Okay, so that's it. We just need to put a placeholder here, and then we're just gonna say search item. Okay, like that. And then let's save. Let's see what we get. So there it is. So we have task name, search item, and then add to do. Okay, so that's it for now. Let's go to the styles and start doing some styles. Okay, so I'm going to define a few variables just in case you want to change the variables, or you want to put light and dark theme. As you can see here from the design, I have a light theme, a dark theme here, and then a light theme here. So just in case you want to change the themes, okay, so make sure you put everything in a variable, in variables. Okay, so let's start with the background. I'm just gonna call this bg. I'm gonna do hash 3 749 54. Okay, so that's the color. Okay, so I'm going to copy the rest of the variables. I don't want to waste your time typing this one by one. So these are the variables that we're going to be using mainly. Okay, so you can copy these variables from GitHub, or you can copy directly from the video. It's up to you. Okay, so I'm also actually gonna do another variable called filter, and then here we're going to do drop shadow. Make sure the spelling is correct. And then here I'm going to put 0 pixels, x on the x-axis, 4 pixels on the y, 22 pixels for blur, and then I'm just gonna do RGBA. with a small opacity of 0.25. Okay, that's it. So now let's go into the body. Let's do display. Actually, let's start with the main content first. Main container dot main container. So for the main container background color, we're going to do var, and then we're going to do bg for that, and then the width we're going to set that to 80%. Width 80%. You're going to see why we are setting to 80%, and then margin 0 auto. So this means we're going to center this item like this. For example, as you can see, width is 80%, and then it's now centered. Margin 0 auto. So auto is left and right. It's going to center. Okay, so auto left and right is automatic, which is going to center the item. So top and bottom is set to 0. Okay, so, and I'm going to give it a fixed height. It's going to be 848 pixels. Okay, so that's going to be our fixed height. And then we're going to do border radius. I'm going to set that to 15 pixels. You can put that to a variable if you want to. And then I'm just going to paste in a box shadow. You can put this box shadow into a variable as well. And then I'm going to do overflow y. We're going to say auto. Actually, you need to be y on the y-axis, just in case we overflow the parent container. Okay, so that's it for now for the main content. We should have this main content. As you can see, we have a nice background. Okay, so now let's start with the header. Okay, so for the header, we're going to say display. We're going to set that to flex. We're going to say align items. We're going to say center, and then we're going to say flex direction. We want everything to be in a column. Okay, so it's going to be in a column, and then it's going to be centered in a column. Okay, and then we're going to set the width for the header to 40%. You're going to see why later. 40%, and then margin, we're going to say 0 auto. Okay, and then we're going to give it a padding as well. So the padding, I'm going to set that to 4 rem, top and bottom, and then 0 left and right. Okay, there it is. Top and bottom, we should have 4 rem, left and right set to 0. Okay, so yeah, let's see how we can center this main container. Okay, so we need to center this main container here. We need to center this vertically and horizontally. So to do that, we're going to use flex in the body. Display flex align items. We're going to say center, and then we're going to say justify content. We're going to center that, so it's going to be nicely centered. It's not centered because we didn't define a height for the body. So the body, let's define a height for that. So body, we're going to say height. We're going to set that to 100 VH. So 100 VH is the viewport height. Okay, and then we're going to do background. Okay, so for the background, we're going to do var, and then we're going to do bg2. That's going to be the background color for the body. And then I'm going to set the font size, the initial font size. We're going to set that to 19 pixels. You can change it to whatever color that you want. Okay, so color, default color, I want everything to be white. Okay, so we're going to say white, color white. Okay, so there it is. Now the main container is now centered. Let's keep going. So in the header, we've done the padding. Let's go down here. We have to do form. We need to start styling the forms now. So now go down and then say to do form. We're going to say display flex justify align items, actually flex direction to column, and then we're going to set the width for everything to be 100%. So as you can see now, we're occupying all of the parent container, which is 40% here. We're occupying everything. So in here, I'm going to target the input. I'm going to say filter for the input. I'm going to use that variable, the filter variable. I'm just going to say filter here. Okay, and then I'm going to say font family. I'm going to set that to inherit. Font size, I'm going to set that to inherit as well. So we're going to inherit everything from the body, from the main body. So which the font family, which is set to Montserrat, and then the font size, which is set to 19 pixels. So just inheriting those. Outline, we're going to set to none, and then border, we're going to set that to none as well. Okay, so now the border, we just need to also do the background. I didn't create a variable for this one. It's 4F68 and then 77. That's the color. Okay, and then border radius, we're going to set that to 15 pixels. If you are reusing this multiple times, you can set that to a variable. It's up to you. And then we're going to do a padding. It's 0.7 rem top and bottom, and then 2 rem left and right. Okay, so left and right, we're going to have 2 rem top and bottom, 0.7 rem. Okay, so for the color, we're also going to inherit the color, which is white. Inherit. Okay, so as you can see, no, the color is white now, but the placeholder color is not white. We want the placeholder to be also white. Okay, we're going to do width, inherit here. We're going to set the width for the input to 100% as well, and then we're going to say display flex, and then we're going to say align self. We're going to say center, and then we're going to do a transition here. So the transition is going to be 0.4 seconds, ease in and ease out. Okay, yeah, that's it for the input. Now let's do the placeholder. We need to change the color for the placeholder, which is this one here. We want it to be a bit white. So let's do end placeholder to target the placeholder, and then we're going to say color. We're just going to do var and then white color. Okay, and then we're just going to reduce the opacity of the color to be a little bit of subtle. So we're going to put that to 0.8. Okay, everything looks good. Great. So now let's do the button input. Button. Make sure the spelling is correct. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to see if I can copy some stuff here. I hate copying and pasting anyway, so let's do background color. Let's do var green. So that's the color for the button. So we're going to copy this, inherit here, and outline and border. We're just going to paste everything here. Okay, so, and also the padding, you can copy the padding here. We're going to use the same padding. Okay, and then border radius is going to be actually different. For the border radius, we're going to use 30 pixels because it's going to be more rounded. Okay, and then the color for this one, we're going to do var what color? Let's do white for the button as well, white. And then font weight, we're going to increase the font weight to 500, I think. Okay, and we're going to say align self, flex start. I want it to be at the left side. Okay, and then margin, top and bottom, I'm going to say 1 rem. I want to leave space between the button and some other elements. Top and bottom is going to be leave a space of 1 rem. Okay, so there it is, 1 rem top and bottom, but the button is on the right side. I want it to be on the left side, so align self should be flex start, not end. Okay, so flex start is going to be at the start, which is the left side. There it is. Okay, and also I'm going to say cursor. I'm going to set that to pointer. When I hover, I want this little hand icon here. Okay, so when we hover this button, we also want to change the color. Say and hover like that, and then we're just going to say background color var bg3, and then the color, we're just going to set that to green, the variable green color. Okay, so there it is. We're missing one thing, which is the transition. Just copy this transition and then paste it here so we can have a smooth transition. Okay, so now that's it for that. Now let's target the search form, to do form, you can collapse this, and then we can do search form. Okay, so search form, I'm going to give it a margin top. Actually, I'm going to say 3 rem. Okay, so it's like a space at the top. I want it to have a big space here. Okay, 3 rem, and then width, I'm going to set that to 100%. Okay, we're also going to set this input here to 100%. It's going to fill the entire width. Okay, so input. So the styles for this input, they're relatively the same as the styles from here. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this, everything here. Okay, and then paste it here. Okay, so now save. There it is. So now we have the search input. Okay, we're just reusing these styles. Okay, so that's it for the header. So now let's go and create some to-do items. Okay, so in the main body, after the header, I'm just going to say main. In the main, I'm going to have dot to do container. In here, I'm going to have a UL, another list of to-dos. Okay, below that, I'm going to have a list item li with the class of to-do item. And then in there, I'm going to have a span with to-do text. Okay, so here I'm just going to say maybe clean the room. Okay, and then after that, I'm going to have an I with the class of fa. Solid is coming from font awesome. Solid, you can use any icon that you want. Solid dot fa trash, and then another class called delete. Okay, like that. So now let's save. As you can see, we have the delete icon and the text. So when I go here, when I say font awesome, you can search for any icon that you want. Let's say I want a delete icon. You can just, actually it's called trash, not delete. Let's say I just want this icon here. Copy this and then just click this text here. Actually, this is a pro icon. I don't think this is free. Search for trash. Okay, there it is. So yeah, just click this. It will copy this icon, and then you just paste it down here. Let's say, for example, I paste it down here. You're going to see it didn't change yet. Oh, I've copied the same icon actually. So let's say this one. I'll copy this. I'll paste it. The icon should change, as you can see. Okay, I think that's a pro icon. Anyways, so the free icons, I can't remember how to see if the icon is free. Let me see if this one is free. Let's double check. Paste it. Yeah, I don't think it's free. I think this trash is free though. Just copy this trash and then put it back. Okay, so yeah, just explore to see which icons are free. Okay, so now that's it. Now let's go to the JavaScript. We need to start doing our JavaScript now. Let's create a new file. Let's do app.js. Okay, so now let's do a few selections. We're going to make some selections. So the first selection, I'm going to say const to do container. So it's like the main container. Oops, I need to turn off Copilot. Okay, to do container. Let me say document dot query selector. In here, we're going to say dot to do container. Okay, so now we have the to do container. I'm also going to do the submit button. I'm going to say const submit btn. Okay, I'm going to say document dot query selector. If you remember, the class name is called sub btn. So if you go to the HTML, the class should be sub btn. there it is, subbtn. Okay, so I'll close this CSS file. Okay, I'm also going to target the input, which is a class of f input. Okay, which is this one. So this is a search input, and then this is f input. Okay, so now let's select the to-dos, this big all here to-dos. Okay, so I'm gonna say const to-dos. Actually, this should be to-dos. I'm gonna say to-dos. Say to-dos container. Okay, so to-dos container, and then I'm gonna say document query selector, and then I'm gonna put the class name of to-dos .to-dos. Okay, I might also want to select the form, to-do form. Okay, there it is. I'm gonna say const to-do form document to query selector, and then we're going to target the to-do form. Finally, we're going to target the to-do item. Okay, to-do item, this one, const to-do item document to query selector. Okay, so now we have the to-do item. Okay, we're going to select the search later. Actually, now let's focus on adding and deleting the to-dos. Okay, so to add a to-do, we're going to say, I'm going to say add to-dos. Okay, so to add to-dos, I'm going to say to-do form dot add event listener. So we're going to listen for, actually we're going to listen for submit. You can add the event listener on the button or on the form. Okay, so in this case we're adding on the form and listening for the submit. So what do we want to happen when we submit the form? Okay, so now let's go ahead and show you what it actually does at the moment. So here, when I say put something in here, when I click, it's refreshing the page. When I put something, it's refreshing the page. Okay, we don't want that behavior. So by default, we're going to select the event. So this is the event, and then the target, and then we're going to say prevent default. Okay, so the prevent default is preventing the page from refreshing. Okay, so when I click here, the page is refreshing. It's still refreshing because we haven't linked our JavaScript file yet into our body. So go down here, and then it says script to link the file, and then source, and then we're going to link app.js. Okay, that's how you link the file. So when I add something, when I click, it's still refreshing. That means something is still not working properly. To do form, let me double check the class name. To do form. Okay, so when I click, it's not working. Let me double check the event. Add event listener, prevent default. This is strange. Let's do a COG. Hello. Okay, now let's see. It seems like it's still refreshing the page. Whoops. I'm not supposed to do target. I don't know why I put target. E.prevent default. I don't know why I put target there. I didn't notice that, to be honest. I was kind of thinking of a target to click something like for example, let's say you have like a list of items. I was thinking of clicking at a certain target. That's my bad. I didn't notice that. Okay, so now it's not refreshing anymore. Okay, So no matter how much you click, it's not refreshing. Okay, so now let's continue. So to create a to-do, let's do const. Let's create a new variable. Let's say create to-do. Okay, so in here I'm going to say const to-do, and then I'm going to say it's equals to, I'm going to say input okay, so input dot value. So the input, like we're targeting, I want to take the input here, okay, dot value, and then I'm going to say dot trim. So the trim is going to get rid of the spaces, okay. So the trim method, for example, when I put space and then I put the text, I don't want to store the space. Let me COG again. COG. Okay, so I'm gonna say input dot value. Okay, so here when I put something, as you can see, it's coming from the console, right? So when I put space, I don't want this space to be stored, okay? And also when I put space at the end, let's say at the end, I don't want to store spaces, so I want to trim the spaces. So when I copy this input.trim here, when I put into the COG control log, console.log, I don't want to save the spaces. When I put space, as you can see, there's no space, okay? It's trimming the spaces. So that's what the trim method does. It doesn't save the spaces from the at the beginning or at the last, at the end. Sorry, my grammar is kind of not good. Okay, so now let's go to the to do. Okay, so I'm going to actually create a function that is responsible for creating a to-do item. I'm going to say const. So this is going to be an arrow function. I'm going to say generate to-dos, and then it's going to take a to-do argument, and then we can say const. I'm going to say text. I'm going to copy the to-do item here. I'm going to copy this whole thing. I'm going to generate this with JavaScript. Okay, so every time I click, I'm going to generate this. I'm going to paste it here. So every time I create a new to-do, I'm going to generate this li. Okay, so here, down here, I'm going to say to-dos container. To-dos container, which is this one here, the to-dos. Okay, so up here we say to-dos container, which is targeting the to-dos class, which is this one. That's what we're targeting. I want to add a list item. Okay, and then I'm going to say dot inner HTML. I'm going to add, let's say we have existing to-dos in there. I'm just going to add this to-do here. Okay, not equal to text. If we do this, it's not going to add on with the existing to-dos in the list. Okay, so we need to say plus equal to add whatever item, whatever a list item want to add. Okay, we're just adding on to the existing list items already in there. Okay, otherwise if we do this, it's not going to work properly. So we need to add plus equal, it means add. Okay, so we're just adding a list item. So here I'm just going to say if, I'm just going to do a basic check. Okay, so we're only going to generate a to-do if there are values in the input, if the values are truthy. Okay, so if to-do is truthy, which means there's something in the input, or if it's falsy, it means it's empty. It's not going to do anything. Okay, so if it's truthy, we're going to generate the to-dos. Okay, generate, oh my days, generate, we're going to call this method, and then it's going to take a to do. Okay, if you remember here, this to do is going to be the text here. Okay, and then we're going to put the to do in here. Whatever text where is coming from the input is going to come here, to do, and then here generate to do's, to do, and then the to do is coming from the input. Okay, so this to do variable here is just taking the input data, and then what putting that input data into this span here. Okay, so I'm going to make a comment. I'm going to say generate a to do only if there are values in the input. If there are values in the input. Okay, I'm also going to clear the form after submitting the data. Let's see if this is working. Actually, I'm gonna say add. Okay, so as you can see, it's adding the data now. It's generating the to-dos. Okay, so yeah, everything works. So but I want to clear this input as soon as I submit the data. So to do that, there's actually a method to do that. Coming from the form, we can say to do form, and then the method is going to be reset. It's going to reset all of the form data. Reset. Okay, so all of the form data are going to be resetted. All of the inputs in this form are going to be resetted to default. Okay, so I'm just going to say clear form. Okay, so let's say when I say milk, it's going to reset the inputs. Okay, that's working. Add, it's working. Okay, so now let's get rid of this console log. Okay, so now let's work on the delete functionality. So this is quite easy to do. We're going to say delete. Okay, so to delete, we're going to do to do container. In here, we're going to say add event listener. We're going to listen for click. Okay, we're going to do arrow function in here. Okay, so let me show you what the to do container is. So the to do container is this one here. Okay, we're going to listen for click in this big container here. So the reason why we're going to listen to a click for this whole container is because we don't want to set an event listener on each and every list item. For example, if we have like 1,000 or millions of items, excuse me, the performance is going to be very bad if we listen to every event listener on each item. The performance is not going to be working nicely. So the best way is to listen to this whole UL, to this whole to-dos container, to find wherever we click, if it contains a specific class. For example, let's say here, when I click, let's say this button here, if it contains a specific class, we want to do something else. Okay, and then if we click wherever our target click is, if it contains a specific class, we want to do something. So in this case, we're going to look for a delete class. So we're going to look for an element which has a delete class. When we click a specific element, if it doesn't have a delete class, we don't want to do anything. If it does have a delete class, we want to delete the item instead of listening to an event listener for each and every item, which is not good for performance. Okay, so now in here, we're going to say if the clicked target contains the delete class, and then delete item. Okay, and then here we're just going to do an if statement here. We're just going to say if e.target, and then we're going to say class list. Okay, so if the class list contains contains this a specific class that we're looking for is delete. Okay, so if the item that we click on contains a class called delete, we're going to do something. What are we going to do? We're going to just to say e.target, and then we're going to say dot parent element. Okay, and then we're going to say dot remove. Okay, we're going to remove target the parent, and then we're going to remove the parent. Let me show you why I'm doing that. So when I inspect here, so this icon here, it is a class of trash, but we want to give it a class of delete, because when we're targeting a class of delete. Okay, so here we're saying if it contains a class of delete, we're going to remove the parent container of that element. So in this case, the element that we're targeting is this the icon here. The parent for this icon is the li tag. When you click this icon, we're going to remove the parent element. That's what we're doing. So in this case, we're looking for a delete class. Here I'm just going to say delete here, add the class. Okay, save. And also here in the JavaScript for the class list here, I'm going to also add the delete, because I want each list item to have this delete class on the icon. Okay, so when I inspect, we're looking for the delete. Okay, so each target that I click, when I click this text, it doesn't work because this text doesn't contain the class we're looking for. We're looking for the delete class, so this icon here contains it. So when I click, it should remove the parent container, which is the li. So when I click, it doesn't delete because we haven't implemented the functionality to delete the item. So we're going to say let's do it here. I'm just gonna say, actually 1 second, remove this, save. Let's save everything. We don't need to do anything in the CSS at the moment. So delete. When I click, nothing happens yet because we have an error somewhere. Cannot read properties of undefined. Okay, so something is wrong. So to do is container, click e.target.classList. Okay, contains delete parent element, remove. Okay, so to do container, let's see here. To do container, okay, to do container, something strange. To do container, add event listener, click e.target, delete parent element. Oh, make sure the spelling is correct. I didn't see that my spelling was wrong, so when I click, it should delete the item. It's actually my fault. So sometimes if you don't have auto completion, the spelling might not be correct. Okay. So actually maybe you might have seen that my spelling was not correct, so you might have seen me struggling to look for the issue. Okay, so now we can delete, we can add items, and then we can delete items. Okay, so now let's just style the to-do item first. Okay, so let's just style that, and then we're going to work on the search functionality. Okay, so yeah, let's see the class name, to do item. Okay, select the class name, and then we're going to go to the container, which is the container here. We're going to say main. After the header, we're just going to say main. Okay, so main. So in the main, that's where we're going to style the to-do item. Okay, dot to-do item. Okay, and then I'm going to say background color. I'm going to do var bg3 Okay, and then we're going to reuse the filter over, and then we're going to do filter, and then padding. I'm going to give it a padding around everything, 2 rem, and then border radius, I'm going to set that to 15 pixels, and then I'm going to give it a spacing on the at the bottom, margin bottom, I'm going to say 2 rem. Okay, I'm going to say display flex. I want the icon and the text to be next to each other, and then I want it to be spaced between. Justify content, we're going to say space between. Okay, and then I'm going to say list style to none. I don't want to have bullet points. Okay, so there it is. It looks nice. We need to say, okay, so for the main here, we need to give it a width. Actually, width, I'm going to give it a width of 70%. I don't want it to be 100% to fill the entire okay, so there it is, but I want it to be centered here. So how do we make it centered? Well, we can just do margin 0, top and bottom, and then auto left and right, and then it's going to center here. It's not centering for some reason. Let's see why. Margin 0 auto, inspect, main, oh, margin 0 auto. Oh, this is supposed to be on the main. Okay, so main, margin 0 auto, so it should center the item. Okay, so when I add a new item, it's coming nice. All right, it's looking good so far. Let's keep going. So I'm just going to also do the eye here, the icon. I'm going to give it a font size. I'm going to say 24 pixels. You can give it any font size that you want. I'm going to say cursor to pointer, and then I'm going to do a transition 0.4 seconds, ease in and ease out, and then I'm going to do a hover. I'm going to change the color on hover and hover. The color, I'm just going to set that to red. Okay, so when you hover, it should tend to red. Okay, so yeah, everything works fine at the moment. Let's work on the completing this text. I want it to be underlined when we complete our task. Okay, so to do the completion of a task, we just need to say, well, I'm gonna say toggle completed. So to do the toggle completed, I'm just gonna target the to-do container, and then I'm gonna listen for double click I'm gonna say dbl click. So that's for double click. It's actually .add event listener. I'm gonna listen for double click. Okay, I'm gonna also get the event, the E. So here I'm just gonna say if clicked target, if clicked, I'm just gonna say toggle class. That's the easier way to comment this one. Toggle class. Okay, so to toggle class, we're just gonna say if e.target.classList. I'm gonna say contains to do item. Okay, so here I'm going to target an item, this list item here. So the event is set on the to-do container, okay, which is this to-dos here, this UL. So when I click inside this UL, I'm looking for an item, an element with a class of to-do item. So if I happen to click on that element with this class name, I want to toggle a class on that element that I clicked on. Okay, So I'm just going to say e.target. I'm going to say class list, and then I'm going to say toggle, the toggle function. Okay, and then I'm just going to toggle completed. That's the class I'm going to toggle completed. Okay, so easy. So now let's inspect this item here. When I click, it should toggle the class. When I double click, actually it's double click. Okay, so it's toggling completed. There it is. Double click, completed, double click. Okay, so it's on double click. So now let's go back and we need to style the completed. Okay, so let's go back to the main to do item. After the to do item, I'm just going to say dot completed. I'm just going to say span. I'm going to target the span. I'm going to say text decoration. I'm going to say line through. Okay, so when I double click, when I activate the completed class, I'm going to put a line through, and then I'm going to also set the color. I'm going to set that to green. Okay, and then I'm going to target the span and the icon. I'm going to say opacity. I'm going to change the opacity to 0.8. Okay, so now let's save to see what we get. So when I double click, it's completed. Okay, as you can see, the opacity is 0.8 when it's completed. Now we're toggling the classes. So the toggling functionality is working as it should. So now let's just work on the search functionality of the to-dos. We want to be able to filter the to-dos. Okay, so to search the to-dos, I'm going to target the search form. Okay, so the search form here, I don't think I need the search form. I actually need the search input itself. Okay, const search input. It's a document to query selector. I'm going to put that search input in here. Search input. Okay, so now let's go down here. I'm going to say search items. Okay, so here I'm just going to say search input dot add event listener. So the one that what we're going to listen for is called key up when we type something in the input. Okay, so key up, we're also going to take the event. All right, so here I'm going to create a new function. Actually, I'm going to take whatever stuff that we've typed in the input. So whatever here we've put in the input here, I'm going to put that into a variable. I'm going to name that variable query, const query. Okay, and then I'm going to grab the input from the I'm going to grab the text from the input. Okay, I'm going to say e.target. I'm going to say .value. Okay, I'm grabbing the value from the input, and then I'm going to trim, so to get rid of the spaces. Okay, so we've used this trim function before, and then I'm going to put everything to lowercase as well. Dot to lowercase. Okay, so we're going to just put everything into lowercase. So that's the query. That's the query which is coming from our input. So what do we want to do with this query? Well, I'm going to create a new function that is responsible for filtering the to-dos. Okay, to-dos filter. We can actually, there are many ways to do this way to do a search. We can use the filter method, or we can do using if and else statements. So let's see what we can do in here. So I'm going to say const filter to-dos, filter to-dos, and then it's going to take a parameter which is query. Okay, so which is our input, whatever we're typing in the input is going to, that's what we're going to pass in the filter to-dos. Okay, so here I'm gonna say const to-do items, const, oops, what's going on here, const to-do items. I'm going to convert all of these items here. So it's like so I'm going to convert the UL, this UL here, these UL items, the LIs, I'm going to convert them into, wait a second, why is it outside? Let me see. Oh, these to-dos, I've added them into a wrong place. Let's see where I'm adding them. Let me comment this out so I don't get an error. Okay, so text to-dos to-do container. So I'm supposed to add them to-dos inside the to-dos, which is the to-dos container. Here it should be to-dos container. Okay, so these list items should be inside the to-dos container. Okay, there it is. Okay, so I want to convert this to-dos, this UL, into an array. So I want this li to be an array item. Each and every li, I want it to be an array item. So I want to convert this whole thing into an array. So to do that, that's why I'm creating a new variable here. Where is it? So new variable to-do items. This is going to be like an array. We're going to convert the UL into an array. So I'm going to say array dot from. Okay, so here I'm going to say to-dos container, and then I'm going to say dot children. So the children of the to-dos container, which is the LIs. Okay, so the children, I'm going to convert that into an array. So when I say CLG, and then I'm going to say to-do, I'm going to say to-do items, do items. Okay, so here I'm just going to see what to-do items are, but we're not using the query yet, so we won't be able to see it. Okay, but so since this is an array, you're going to see, let's use the filter to-dos first, and then you can see what this list is. Okay, so here I'm going to say filter to-dos based on the query. Okay, so the query is the input, whatever we put in the input. Okay, filter based on search. Okay, so when I filter something, as you can see, we have a list here. It's only one item because we don't have anything yet. So let me add something. Let me add more items. Okay, as you can see, we have an array now, an array of 6 elements. Okay, so we've converted that list, the UL, and put the children as array elements. Okay, so here we're just saying to-dos.children. These will be our array elements. Okay, so now that we have the children into an array, we just need a way to filter this array based on the search, based on the query. Okay, so get rid of this. So I'm going to say to-do items, and then I'm going to say dot for each. So now I'm going to loop over each to-do item. Okay, So because we've converted that to an array, now we have the ability to loop over every item because it's an array. So now we can use the for each method. Okay, so here I'm just going to say if the to-do text contains query, then show it. Okay, so I just want to display the to-do items that contains whatever we pass in the query. Okay, so if whatever we pass in the query, let's say if I do this random text, if it doesn't match whatever elements that we have, we don't want to return anything. We only want to return whatever matches, whatever stuff we've put in the query. Okay, so to do that, we're going to use if and if else. Okay, I'm also going to say const, create a new variable here. I'm going to say text, and then I'm going to say is equals to do dot text content. I'm just grabbing the text content. Okay, so the text content is going to be this span. When I inspect here, is this text content here, this span here. That's what I'm grabbing here into a new variable. Okay, I'm just saving the text content of the span into this variable. Okay, so after that, I'm just going to say if text text. Okay, I'm going to also put it to lowercase, and then I'm going to say so the lowercase is a function. I'm going to say dot includes query. So there are multiple ways to do this. You can do this with the filter method. Okay, so if it includes the query, what do we want to do? I'm going to say to do. I'm going to say dot style dot display, and then I'm going to say is equals to block. Okay, so we want to show if it includes the query. Okay, and then else we don't want to show it if it doesn't include the query. So I'm going to say to do dot style dot display, and then here I'm going to say none. Okay, so yeah, let's save. Now let's add some text. Here I'm going to say random get the milk, go to shops, clean room, or whatever. So now when I search, when I say room, so now it's filtering anything that has to do with room. Okay, and then I'm going to say get. Okay, so when I put something that doesn't exist, now everything doesn't show. It's only going to display whatever matches the query, whatever text that is going to be in the query. When I say go, it's going to show stuff with go. Okay, so when I put room, it's going to show stuff with room. So now I can delete these elements. Okay, so now refresh. Okay, so there it is. Okay, now we can delete the stuff. We can filter. For some reason, when I filter, the class is got messed up. So what I'm going to inspect to see what's going on. Li. Oh, it's set display to block when I let me see why. I think we need to reset it to flex, because when we filter, it's overriding the display from flex to block. Let's do flex instead. Okay, so let's do room, get room. I'm just testing to see if it's working. Room, clean. Okay, it's working now, so it's not squished up anymore. Go to shops. So when I say shop, okay, so yeah, it's working. So instead of doing display block, put it to flex, because it was overriding the previous flex display. Okay, so now everything works. So now we just need to work on the custom navbar, the custom scroll bar, I mean, not navbar, the custom scroll bar. So when I double click, completed. Okay, so now let's work on the custom scroll bar. So it's quite easy to work on the scroll bar. Let's go into the, I think in the main. So that's where we do the scroll bar, in the main container, because this is the main container. That's where we want the scroll bar to be. So I'm going to go into the main container here. I'm going to say end. Okay, I'm going to do WebKit. WebKit scroll bar, like that. So make sure this is correct. It's end WebKit scroll bar. Here we're just going to say width, we're going to set that to 7 pixels. Okay, so we're going to have a width of 7 pixels, and then I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to say scroll bar, I'm going to say track. Okay, so that's the, we're just going to change the background color. I'm going to paste in a color for the track. Okay, and then duplicate, and then the thumb, which is the actual scroll bar, I'm going to paste in a linear gradient. Okay, so background linear gradient, and then I'm just going to give it a border radius of 10 pixels, like that. So now when I save, I'm going to add a couple a few items here. I'm going to add one more list item, actually 2 more, 1, 2. I'm going to say read at least 2 chapters. Okay, so I'm going to say call Anna on Thursday night, like that. So it's up to you what you decide to do. Okay, now save. Excuse me. So now we have 3 to-do items. We can still search. Now we can add more. I'm gonna say add more to-dos. Okay, so now we have a custom scroll bar. There it is. Only when we're overlapping. So when I delete, we have more space. Okay, so when I double click, it's completed. Okay, yeah, that's it. That's it for this video. So your challenge is to use local storage to save the items in the local storage and then retrieve them. Okay, so when you refresh, you want your items to be there from the local storage. So that's your challenge, just to do a bit of research on how to do local storage. Okay, so if you have any questions, put some comments in the description, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video.